We are live from the Bodds Studio 1. I am Guns Picks, and we are here to talk a little NBA. Joining me today is one of the co-hosts, my brother in arms, the second part co-host. We call ourselves the Gun Locker when it's just the two of us. Lockbets.net. What's going on, my friend? How you feeling?
What's up, brother? How we doing? Gunsy, it's been a while. I think we took a nice little week off. Memorial Day weekend festivities. I think I'm just out of the weekend hangover, per se. Played a few rounds of golf, got a little drunk a few days. But, hey, listen, we are ready to cook, ready to cash. Lot of action. I mean, we got – baseball is just kind of hitting that stride. You know, we're in June. Playoff implications are finally in the air. It's not those day games in April. It's starting to mean something.
I also look at it that the weather's warming up, and when the weather warms up and you start getting that summer weather, you start getting that ball start flying out of left field, right field, center field. Get those overs hitting.
Hell yeah.
A lot of scoring, and the pitchers that were absolutely electric, they either stay that way or they fall off the map. And that's baseball, baby. That's what they call it.
How about shout out to my boy Nestor Cortez? Kid is absolutely dealing. I mean, he would have been a perfect candidate for what you just said. You know, start off hot, fizzle. But, I mean, it's June, and he's still – I think, in my opinion, AL front runner for Cy Young. I mean, the kid is absolutely nails.
Yeah, it's hard to tell this early in the season, but yeah, he is nails. Lefty, lefties are very hard to hit, and going against, even the teams that are going against are usually strong against lefties. He's end up showing up. I mean, he showed out today in a tough spot against Ohtani, I believe he was going against.
Yeah. Ohtani doesn't give up a lot of home runs, and he gave up 3 dingers today. It seems like the Yankees kind of have his number lately.
Oh, from my stats that I keep daily, I know Ohtani is a bad. I took him game 1. I took a money line game 1, first 5. I knew Ohtani is wishy-washy on the road. When he gets home, he deals. So I don't know if that's a weather guy or that's just I need to be home. He's an everyday guy.
Body. Maybe he likes the West Coast. Maybe he just.
It could be
closer to home, you know.
It definitely could be. We got golf, we got NBA.
NBA's in full action. We got game 1. We have game 1, Gunsy. I mean, you're from Boston. How you feeling, brother?
I haven't had these jittery feelings since I think 2008. This team is everything that gets me excited about winning a championship that I've always remembered. And I'm trying to keep my fandom low and try to keep my sharpness online because I want to bet on this series. I know we have a guest that's a fan as well. We'll get to him in a second. But I'm a little bit worried about the Warriors to say, and I'll talk about this a little bit further once we get into it. This is the best team they've played all series by far. They're the healthiest. Whether it be mentally or physically. And I'm a little bit concerned about playing the Warriors overall. I don't care what happened in the regular season. It's what happens in the playoffs that really decides who's the man and who's not.
It's going to be a little biased because I know our guest is, well, you know what? No, I think you both will be able to separate a tad from the love of Boston. But, just my outside perspective. I'm not a huge NBA guy. Never have.
I'm as casual as it gets with the NBA. I'll watch the playoffs when teams in it.
I lost a little bit of my heart once the New Jersey Nets, the Vince Carter, the Jason Kidds, when they left Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, I think I lost my NBA love. But coming from an outsider's perspective, it looks like the Warriors have a few missing pieces, these young studs that they didn't have the last few years. I mean, who's this Poole character? He's pretty solid, huh?
Poole for Golden State. Yeah, he's pretty solid. I think he's dealing with he's banged up a little bit in this series. And this is probably one of the matchups he hasn't had to deal with before, especially when you're dealing with the defense that Boston brings. But like I digress. I don't want to give too much of the NBA stuff away. I want to have the expert in here to call me out on my bullshit.
Correct.
Let's just get to an ad read. Let's get to a Cappers breakdown, and then we'll get to the man, Josh, aka at Punt School. What do you say? Let's do it.
This podcast is sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers.
This podcast is sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzers. Viva Tequila Seltzers is a refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer with 88 calories, 0 carbs, and 0 sugar, and 4.5 ABV. Viva is the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations, NBA Finals, as it was created for the active lifestyle in mind. Viva flavors their tequila seltzers because flavor is the spice of life, and they like their drinks with a kick, just like they like to live their lives. Viva flavors perfectly with their artisanal Blanco tequila for our subtle and refreshing drinks. Their belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. And make sure you check them out on Twitter at Viva Seltzers. They must be excited because they are from the Massachusetts, just up the road from Maryland right now. So man, I'm just really elated to watch the NBA Finals. I'm getting a little bit verklempt.
That's okay. That's all right. I think what you were trying to say was it's now it's kind of that weather for Viva Tequila Seltzers too. I brought them on the golf course for the first time last week. This isn't an ad. I gave them all to my friends. I only had like 4 or 5 of them, but they were like, "Where do you get this? Where the hell do you get this?" And you know where you get it, Guns? You have to log online. You can buy them directly, which I did not know is
you can. Mm-hmm.
And I just bought a 30. I think it was like a 36 pack. I think I spent an arm and a leg considering we are sponsored, but you know what? I need them in my fridge at all times. Baseball's in the air. Viva Tequila Seltzers are in the air. TikTok is in the air. Guns, that's your new little hobby you got going on over there.
It is. I've gotten into TikTok. I might be a little bit too old for TikTok, but I'm telling you, for a guy that loves to joke around, loves to edit, loves to give out plays, I think it is the perfect icing on the cake to actually spread out and get some viewership. Trying to get across all social medias, trying to be one of the kids, I might be doing the dances before you know it. I might be that far into it. Let's get into some picks because I have one for tonight. I know you have a golf one for this weekend, and then we'll have Josh come join us to talk a little hoops that everybody's waiting for.
It is time for the Dad Bodds Capper Breakdown.
Oh, yeah. I'll start us out tonight. So this is going to be the late game. You have the New York Mets traveling on the road, going to play the LA Dodgers. And if you know anything about the Dodgers, and if you've been watching my TikTok, I faded them so hard last night on the F5. I took a chance, and it worked out, and I had the stats to prove it. But guess what? I'm not going to fade them tonight. Gonsolin is on the mound. I always get that. Yeah, Gonsolin's on the mound. He's the best. He's arguably the best pitcher in that lineup. He is 6-0 in 8 starts after 5 innings. He's only pushed on 2, but he's never lost. He's playing at home. They haven't left home. They're coming off a absolute sweep from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then you have the New York Mets that have won 7 in a row from a first 5 perspective. But guess what? All of those were at home. When you get that team on the road, they are about 50-50 when it comes to the first 5 innings. Walker's going to be taking the mound for him. And if you actually look at the Mets stats in their last 13 road games, first 5 innings, 4-8-1 after 5 innings. So you have arguably one of the better teams in the National League coming off a sweep of a piss poor Pirates team. And your best pitcher, you're not leaving home. You got a team that's played 7 straight at home, going on the road, West Coast style. Give me the Dodgers minus half a run first 5 innings.
Let's go.
Lock
Let's
bets.
freaking go. And that's tonight.
That is tonight. 10. I think that starts at 10 p.m. Let me just double check. 10:10 is first pitch. So get on it if you're watching right now.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to transition over to a sport we all love. We love to bet the golf.
Yes.
Today was a pretty solid day at Memorial, place that Jack built. Jack Nicklaus's pride and joy, per se. It's his tournament. Look no further for a second round matchup between Sung Jae Im and Corey Connors. 2 international stars, to say the least, 2 birdie heavy players. I love Corey Connors tomorrow to start hot, finish hot. Plus 100, you're going to get him over Sung Jae Im. Sung Jae is a bit shaky. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with him. Listen, he may go -5 tomorrow, and I may be the stupidest guy in the room. But Corey Connors, steady Eddie, Big Maple from Canada. I'm taking him plus 100. Give me a unit on it. Something to sprinkle tomorrow while you're working. Put the out of office on, grab a beer, watch Corey Connors cook, watch Corey Connors cash.
I'll tell you what, since the Masters, I'm a big Corey Connors fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I
fun
had
to
him,
watch.
Yeah.
Fun
every bit. I knew how he played at Augusta, and I'm telling you, this guy's electric.
He's on the cusp. He's on the cusp of something big. And you know what? I mean, it could be this weekend. He could go very low tomorrow and really start.
I always say hockey players make good golfers. I always say that.
Yes.
And it's just
good drinkers. Good drinkers.
Oh, Molson, eh? Crown Royal, eh? I don't know if they drink Crown Royal there, but anyways, that's a Canadian whiskey.
Maybe. Why not?
All right, I hear a knock on the door. Let me go answer it, shall we?
I think so.
Oh, you know that sound. That means the dads have a special guest ready to join the show. Let's tune in and see who it could be.
So you know about Aussie Rules football. We ain't petting wallabies here, folks. We're talking NBA. We're talking hoops. But I'm going to bring my Australian friend on. His name is Josh. They call him at @punt_school on Twitter. He's been on every podcast known to man the past week talking NBA Finals, and he is a fellow Celtics fan, so he will always be a friend of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, for the second time on the Dad Bodds podcast, Josh, what's going on, my friend?
What's happening, fellas? How are you all feeling?
Good, brother. How you doing down there, man?
Good. As of right
nervous?
now, yeah. Well, not yet.
Not
Give
yet.
me,
Okay,
like-
yes, game 1.
Yeah, like even at the end of this show, once I go sit on the lounge and, really settle into what's happening, I think that's when nerves will take over and I will become a little bit of a wreck and probably not pleasant to be around for the duration of game 1.
My superstition, if things go bad and I'm watching at the house, I take my phone and I go to my garage so I can just pace and throw stuff. And game 7, when they started losing the lead, and I was like, no. And I had the under too. I had the under, and
Yeah.
I had the Celtics every which way. And I'm like, this is gonna. And I'm like, no, they're not gonna do it
It's all
again.
right.
And
It's
then,
all right.
like,
Everything's gonna be okay. You guys are here. All right, you made it. You made it to
We
this
did.
lovely culmination of the season. And Josh, last time you were on, you did say Celtics. I mean, you told everybody
yes,
it was not just a hometown favorite. I mean, you had the analytics to back it up. And God bless you for being back here to proclaim and celebrate the fact that they're here. But we got a lot of work to do, right?
We got a lot of work. Yeah.
but you did pick the Suns, but I won't give that to you. I mean that that was a tough one. And this is a series that, like, once things kind of broke down, I wanted to see the Warriors. I wanted to see the Celtics. I thought that would be the best, most viewership as far as even just the casual fan just want to watch a series.
Yeah.
I want to kind of talk about what we're going to look for. We'll get to game one in a second, but I want to talk about, like, what are we going to look for in this series game to game? Where are the teams at currently as far as injuries are concerned? Are there any health concerns on any of the teams that could affect the play from game one to, if it even gets to game 7?
Yeah. For Boston immediately, I mean, it's what's the true health status, if you will, of Rob Williams and Marcus Smart. That's going to be paramount. I think Smart didn't look 100% those last couple of games in the Miami series, I don't think, playing off of, what was a pretty badly sprained ankle. I was honestly surprised he was able to come back that series. When you look at that injury in real time and how bad it looked, it was almost exactly what Anthony Davis did, and he missed an entire, back half of the season for the same thing. So, how healthy is he? He is going to be pretty big given how much work he's going to have to do off the ball in chasing, Steph or Jordan Poole or Clay around those screens. Those guys don't stop moving all game long. So it's an entirely different task for him here. Rob Williams as well. Is he going to be healthy? He didn't look great in game 7 against Miami. That knee obviously flared up, but I think there's enough rest in between these series where he in particular should be fine. At least to start the series. And then the fact that they're not playing every other day, I think is going to be beneficial to Boston more so than Golden State. The Warriors' injuries are sort of, secondary. Otto Porter Jr., is he coming back? Is Iguodala going to see the floor at all this series? Is Gary Payton actually going to be back? And they're all role players, bit part players, but I think they're pretty important in this series because they're the type of guys that provide the length and size you need to match up with Boston's wings. Because, outside of Andrew Wiggins, there's really no one you can throw at Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown for, the entire 46 minutes that they're probably going to be on the floor that match up to them naturally without giving away some sort of mismatch, in doing so. So I don't think that those injuries are necessarily anywhere near as important, but I think that they're valuable, and we'll have to see exactly how that comes to fruition because for someone like Gary Payton, I mean, he hasn't played since, the second game, I believe it was, of that Memphis series. That's a pretty long time to come out and then to just be thrown back into the NBA Finals and to be thrown back when you only play, 16, 18 minutes a game as it is anyway. It's hard to sort of get your bearings straight away. So those things I think are going to be interesting. I think Kerr has a lot to figure out in his rotations. But in terms of health, I think the Warriors are in a better position, especially given their starting 5 is completely fine. But I think that both sides should be fine with the rest that's been, given to both in between these finals.
You mentioned the Marcus Smart thing, and now you saw him in the Eastern Conference finals, and they kind of played him on one game, off one game, especially with the injury concerns. Do you see, like, for example, do you see him play? He's probably going to play game 1. Yeah. If things go south and he's not feeling well, do you think it's going to be one of those things that he's going to be off and on from game 1 to the rest of the series?
No, I don't think so. I think if he's good to go game 1, unless he re-injures it, they're going to play him every game. We're talking 2 full rest days in between games for the NBA Finals, 3 in some instances. So, I think he'll be fine. He's going to play through whatever it is. If he's 70, 80%, I think that's enough for him to go and for Boston to give the green light as well.
Josh, what do you think is the biggest mismatch for either team that's probably not getting talked about a lot? Is there something that you're seeing that really we could find value in and kind of take advantage of?
Yeah, I think there's 2 key areas that are essentially going to decide every game, and that is rebounding and turnovers. And both of those, I think Boston are the team that has the edge. I think they're better on the boards. They have bigger presence on the inside naturally with Rob Williams, Al Horford, Grant Williams rotation. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Kevon Looney, I think, to try and replicate what he did, particularly in the Memphis series where he was pulling down like 20 boards a game. I don't think he's going to have that level of success against Boston because, it's not just those inside guys. You know, Tatum and Brown are very big bodies, and they're very active on the boards as well. And they're used to having to box these guys out. You know, they came through 2 very physical series against Milwaukee and Miami, both teams who love to crash the offensive glass. So they're pretty well versed in having to deal with that. And I think that's what gives Boston the edge on the rebounding side of things. Turnovers, I mean, you know, I've said it in previous shows. Warriors, in the regular season, they were 29th in turnover percentage offensively. They turned the ball over a lot. That's been replicated again in the playoffs. You know, they're bottom 5 again of teams that made the playoffs in terms of turnover percentage for offensive possessions. And we see Draymond, you know, he has those games where he has 5-6 turnovers. Steph has those games where he has 5-6 turnovers. So does Jordan Poole. You're talking now against the best defense that they've had to face, a defense that has length, that interrupts passing lanes, that can force those turnovers and has done so at a very high clip. If they're able to do it again and play in transition and, you know, spark their offense that way, that's a pretty big advantage for Boston. And, you know, I think if the Celtics are able to play from in front in most games this series, I trust that defense to get them through.
Yeah, they definitely have an advantage on the front court, in my opinion. I mean, if you're talking about like Draymond inside, you think Grant Williams can, you know, go in there, or even Robert Williams is just absolutely electric, just wide span center. I'm interested as like when you're looking at the backcourt and you look at the depth on the Celtics end of it. You have, you know, you talk about Tatum, you can talk about Brown, you can talk about Smart. The emergence of Pritchard and White on that court is like, how are they going to affect the depth in this series, especially on for Derek White?
Derek White's huge. He is, for me, probably the most important piece for Boston's backcourt this series. Firstly, he's the absolute perfect counter for Jordan Poole. So Jordan Poole has been Golden State's X factor off the bench the entire playoffs. You know, he provides a spark offensively. He can get to the basket. He can shoot the 3. He's extremely active at that end of the floor. Derek White is arguably the best perimeter defender in the NBA in terms of his off-ball activity. He can navigate screens on ball. He can navigate screens off ball. He can stick to your man. If he can do that to Jordan Poole and neutralize what Poole can do offensively, Kerr has a really big dilemma because Poole's defensive liabilities have often been offset by the fact that he gives them so much offensively. If he can't give them that offensively and he, you know, is targeted defensively, just like I anticipate he will be because he is such a weak point there for them, how much Jordan Poole are we really going to see this series? And there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to perform and to figure things out quickly. And that's why I think Derek White might be, you know, outside of the top level stars, I think he might be the most important player in this series because he can do things at both ends of the floor that are going to force Golden State's hand a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So from the Celtics perspective, I know they're kind of inflated, kind of a high-end dog. But when you actually break down their series, as they played the Brooklyn Nets, and they were going through their own mental shambles and whatever was going on there, they get to the Bucks, Middleton missing. That kind of like was a key element of them kind of moving on in that series, even though the Bucks played them very well. Same thing with Miami with the injuries there, and Miami was able to take them to Game 7. Do you think Celtics have already had the shamrock of luck to get to this spot, and it's going to all fall apart with the Warriors here, or
No,
is this team legit?
This team is very legit. I think the one thing, you know, that seems to be overlooked constantly is every single series Boston has been missing starters. They didn't have Rob Williams in that Brooklyn series. That's a pretty big piece to be without. That Milwaukee series, you know, Marcus Smart missed 2 games. Al Horford missed a game. The Miami series, Horford and Smart both missed game 1. Smart then missed another game in that series as well. So they've had starters miss games in these series as well. And I think if they were fully healthy the entire way through, they probably navigate those series a little bit more convincing. Obviously, they couldn't do the Brooklyn one more convincingly, but, you know, they probably avoid Game 7 situations against Miami and against Milwaukee. So they've played pretty banged up themselves and have navigated it well. And I think if you look at Golden State's run, if the Celtics had played the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Mavs to get to the finals, they would have done it just as convincing, if not more so. They probably don't drop a game against Denver. They probably only drop one game against Memphis. I think it's easy to say in hindsight, right? Because at the time, the Warriors, Mavs, everyone was sort of really high on Dallas and were like, this is the team that can, this is Luka's breakthrough. Good luck trying to stop him type thing. And then as soon as the Warriors kind of get through in 5, everyone's like, well, it was a complete mismatch from the get-go. And, Dallas clearly don't have enough pieces. So it's always easy to say in hindsight, the same way it is about Miami and people saying that, they didn't have the offensive firepower that Golden State did. But before that series, I mean, everyone was talking about the fact that Miami had the best 3-point percentage in the regular season. They were the best perimeter offense in the regular season period, and they just weren't able to get going against Boston. And I don't think that's coincidental. I think that takes away from just how good the Celtics were defensively and how well they schemed for Miami's offense. So I don't think they've ridden their luck by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're justifiably in the finals, and I think that they are very live to win the NBA Finals as well as a result.
That was a good point that you made there about like comparing them, like if the Boston played the same teams
path.
that they had. Yeah, if you compare them on both sides of the spectrum, it's a whole different outcome there. Lock bets, go.
I just think I think he did a lot for Guns' mental health there, Josh. I think he's been a little nervous. I think he's been on edge all day. So I think you saying
it's more excitement than nervousness, because game one kind of is like, even if they lose game one, I still feel good about Boston because their record after a loss since January. That's all I'll say. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I've been seeing on Twitter. I'm a dumb when it comes to the NBA, but I am very good at reading tweets all day long. So the brain works in mysterious ways. But I've been seeing the prop of what's his name, Al Horford over 9.5, over 10.5. What's the deal with game one and Al Horford? Is there any angle to approach this, or is the public just looking at Al Horford's total, his name, and just hammering it?
I think so. I don't think there's necessarily anything to it. I would probably lean the other way. I think he's someone who probably won't be as actively involved in the offense in this series, at least to get going. He's going to play more of a facilitator role. Him and Draymond essentially cancel themselves out, right? I think they're both almost the exact type player for what they bring to their teams at both ends of the floor. They're both facilitators.
It's not 2013 right now, It's not 2014. 2022.
Right. Exactly. It's, their impact on the defensive side of the floor is something that can't necessarily be measured, I don't think. It's the intangibles that both bring to the table that are so valuable. So they really do cancel each other out. And yeah, there's I think a world that exists where Al Horford can pop off for 15, 18 points. But, do you really want to be betting on that? I don't think so. I certainly do not.
I certainly do not. Guns, is it time for me to ask Josh what I should be betting on tonight, or do we have to ease into it?
I think the people want to know
what we're betting tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking at the clock, make sure that we give people enough time. I have one more question before we actually get into some picks here. But so we've talked about the players, we've talked about the benches, we've talked about injuries. Now we're going to look at the coaches. So you have the youthful, young, first year being a head coach, replacing a guy that's been there for a while who went into play. I guess he's in the front office now. Again, Steve Kerr, he's not only been in the finals, won the finals as a player, of course, he's won it as a coach as well. How does the experience factor work for a coach that hasn't been there before versus a guy that's been there, veteran, seasoned? How does that work? It's like Bill Belichick versus an assistant coach that got hired by the Jaguars. Go.
Yeah. That's a really hard one, I think, to quantify as well. I think it's a factor. It's definitely a factor. I think Steve Kerr, like you said, having been there so many times, having had the core that he has around him, goes through all of this before, means that there's probably less emphasis on having to get them to focus and to stay in the moment and to, not worry about the distractions and to just execute what they do on the floor. Whereas I guess Boston, you could probably say, are a little bit more volatile in that state where maybe those distractions do get to them a little bit for game one. Maybe they don't have that same poise about them because Udoka himself doesn't potentially have that same poise, although he doesn't come across as that sort of guy. I think he comes across as someone who is always level-headed in any situation. When it comes to like X's and O's, I mean, I think Udoka might be better in that regard. And I'm high on Steve Kerr. I actually am probably in the minority where I think he doesn't get the recognition he deserves for what he's done in Golden State, which is strange to say when you look at the dynasties they've had. But everyone seems to just say, well, when you have a team that good, it's inevitably going to work. But I mean, Brooklyn fans will tell you it's not that simple, right? I mean, Steve Nash hasn't done anything in 2 seasons that he's had his super team together. And, it does take, I think, an astuteness to not only get players to buy in, but to be able to get them to execute what it is you're trying to implement as well. And Steve Kerr does that terrifically well. I think you have to give the coaching advantage a little bit to Kerr. Like you said, it's purely just having been here before and being able to block out the distractions and get the team to just focus on what's in front of them. But when it comes to the in-game situations, in-game adjustments, I trust Udoka as much as I trust anyone else in the league. It's interesting as well. You look at some of the statistics and data behind it. I mean, the Celtics are second in the NBA in after timeout coaching plays being run. So the shot quality and the points per possession after timeouts, they are second in the NBA in that regard. The Warriors not too far off. They're sixth. But I think that highlights as well Udoka's ability to sort of make the right calls, especially coming out of timeouts and in important situations to make sure that his team gets the look they need. So X's and O's, I'd say Udoka. But yeah, I think experience, obviously, Kerr's a mile ahead of him in that regard. It's just a matter of how do we quantify it and what's its true value.
The right answer on that one was they beat the Bucks. That's an NBA champion, right, Coach?
Yeah.
They beat the Miami Heat, NBA championship coach. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm saying that as a Celtics fan. I want to get to the picks. I have another co-host of the Dad Bodds podcast joining us right now with the Odds fellow. He's in the group. Wow, what a background there. Love that. The lights and everything.
String lights, baby.
Good.
String
that's
lights.
Awesome. So we're getting into the picks. I'm going to start with you, Josh. I know the Odds fellow is our fellow NBA capper, and I want to get his opinion as well. What are you thinking? Let's start with game one. And I mean, what's your thought process going into this game from a bettor's perspective?
Yeah. So firstly, I've already bet the Celtics to win the series. And I've done it before game one because I think that the Celtics are equally live in game one as they are in game two. So there's a lot of narratives around, let the Warriors win game one and then bet the Celtics to win the series after that before game two. I just don't think that the edge exists in game one that a lot of people seem to be making out, that it's almost a foregone conclusion that the Warriors are going to get the job done first up and then the Celtics respond after a loss like they have done all playoffs. So yeah, the fact that I think they're equally live means I'm going to take series position now before the tip-off, and I have done so already for a pretty large position. In terms of this game, the only play I have on this one is a Warriors team total under. So I took the under 108.5 for Golden State as their team total, largely because when I look at game ones and I look at the matchup, I'm like, who has to figure out more first? And I actually think the Warriors offense needs to figure out Boston's defense because they haven't faced anything like it. They're switch heavy. They have the length, the size, the athleticism, and they have the individual pieces as well that can nullify some of the offensive personnel that the Warriors have to offer. So it's almost going to be like a jigsaw puzzle for Golden State to try and work out. And I think that favors Boston's defense more than it favors any other offensive or defensive set that's out on the floor. So I'm going to take the Warriors team total under for game one, trusting that Boston's defense can at least cause them enough discomfort. The Warriors might win. I just don't think it's going to be quite so easy and convincing in the manner that the majority seem to think it's going to be the case, just because it's a game one and it's an experienced team.
I'm going to take it to you, Odds fellow. I know you are a anti-Celtics guy, but you also have a brain in your head, and you understand logic, and you knew not to fade the Celtics after a while, and you started playing with totals. What are your thoughts on game one? You're muted.
I lost the mute button there for a second. No, I heard some of the show and what you guys were talking about. I tried to get on earlier too, but I think the matchup is going to be really interesting. The injuries and some of the health is going to be really interesting. The coaching is going to be really interesting. You have two teams that also, while ranked very high defensively, also rely a little bit on the 3-ball, and that 3-point shooting creates a lot of variance too. So for me, I didn't put anything on this series wise. I do lean a little bit with the health and the experience of the Warriors, but it's tough to not back the Celtics. You go all the way back to January, February, March, when 538.com started predicting this team as the number one, ranked team to win it all. And you're looking at this thing, and you're looking at their record, and you're looking at the games, and you're looking at the record in December, and you're like, this makes no sense. But here it was, right? It was the defense, it was some of the advanced metrics and things coming to fruition. So this is a strong, a very good team. I think Josh mentioned a lot of those trends that favor the team with the rest or the team at home in game one. For me, at that number right now, 3.5, 4, I don't see a ton of value. I could see it going and flip flopping either way. I'm going to sit back, and a lot of this series, I'm probably going to be in game live betting. It's just the nature of the beast with the NBA these days and the variance that you get. So the position I am taking for this first game is a first half under, because I do think you have enough pieces integrating back into the mix here. For the Warriors, the best team the Warriors have faced, like Josh just mentioned, defensively in the Celtics. That team tends to get very sloppy with the ball too. You saw that in some runs against Memphis, and how they play. They get a little nonchalant if the buckets aren't falling. That creates it. And Boston sometimes can struggle a little bit in that half court set if they're waiting and they're going too much isolation ball. And I think people forget how good the Warriors, even with the switch and some of the mismatches you guys mentioned, can still be good on defense, and some of the pieces they hopefully get back now, that matters. So first half under 105 for me, small position. And then really I'm just going to kind of let this thing play out and enjoy the series, enjoy some of the games, find some live edges.
I did see, I did do like a real quick check to see where the steam was going as far as the game over under, and it looked like it was going towards the over, but it was basically public steam. I just want to say that I think a lot of people just see the Warriors and automatically go over. I got a question.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I like to lean on a lot of these finals and these playoff matches and take unders, and I don't know,
right.
Has that been more profitable this year? Probably, but like these teams can get so hot from three or get into a foul fest, especially down the stretch, and you lose a little bit of that point value, and the thing changes quickly.
Yeah, you mentioned value there. It was like it got steamed up like 4 points. I was like, I mean, that you're not buying an over above 4. I was like, even in football too, it's the same thing. If it gets steamed up way too high, it's almost like buying a stock. It's like if you ever saw Trading Spaces, they just waited for the number to move, and then they went buy, sell. And then that's when you buy it at the under, and then watch it trickle down. Lock bets. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I did make a prediction on Game 7.
Okay.
I hit both. First half, and
Yes.
I think I hit the under.
Okay.
So bang bang.
So you're hot.
Did you see my fadeaway jump shot? It has been compared to
Thank you.
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic. Yes.
You heard me.
Yes.
I said it right.
Is he related to Luka Doncic?
Nope. I said Doncic. You know why I said Doncic? Because my kids call it Doncic.
Doncic?
Yes, that's why it was a kid thing. It got stuck in my head. So you saw
Luka
that fadeaway.
Doncic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty electric,
Luka Doncic.
right?
Luka Doncic. Okay.
Yeah. No, I said Doncic.
Doncic.
It's for my kids.
Okay.
What'd you think of that shot? Scaled at 1 to 10.
I tell you what, I would like to point out the hoop. I think the hoop may or may not have been regulation size.
It was
plastic.
No,
plastic, kind of not a plexiglass.
Are you saying Fisher Price? It wasn't Fisher Price.
No, but it looks like the kind of hoop you get on Facebook Marketplace for like $45, but you have to pick it up. Not delivery. That kind of hoop. But I will say, you did not have any knee braces on that I saw. So you are a young sprout guns picks, which I will tell you. I mean, you're on TikTok. You are literally what I want to be in 25 years. When I'm your age, I definitely want to be as sprout as you. But no, seriously, it was a great. I mean, listen, you are athletic. I think I wouldn't be able to put my balls to the wall like that and be on TikTok and perform at that level. So I think you are actually ready for the playoffs more than maybe some players on the teams we just spoke about. So put them in, coach. I'm ready to see Guns play some more hoops. Is that what you wanted to hear, or was that
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You took a little bit of a shot at me at my hoop. but
well,
you didn't take a
the
shot at
one
me
that you
personally.
dunked, I mean, that couldn't have been 10 feet. Was
It definitely was. That wasn't. I
Okay.
put it down for that one.
All right.
Okay. Yes, I can't.
There's a live
We're on
look at it
gambling
right
Twitter. It's all
behind me.
about
Yeah.
transparency.
Yeah.
It was probably.
Transparency.
I can't jump anymore. My, I'm always afraid the ACL will go. All right, let's just talk about. I know. So I guess we talked series. We talked game one.
Maybe a same game parlay. I mean, I like the odds fellow.
I want to ask
under
Josh.
and then team total under. Maybe
I
just
know
have a little bath, combine them both. Why
we
not?
have prop guys that watch, and the chat is going nuts right now. Do you have a prop for tonight that you would take? Not saying that you're a prop guy, but is there a prop that you would take tonight in game one?
There's a couple. One being, I think we already spoke about Jordan Poole and why I think he could struggle this series. And so I like his unders, his points unders, his points assists unders. Like I said, I think that there's a world where Kerr's going to have a dilemma in his hands as to how much he can play him. If Derek White's able to sort of neutralize what he does offensively, given the liability that he brings defensively, this might be one of those series where Poole not only isn't as impactful, but his minutes are going to sort of nosedive as a result of that. So I like Jordan Poole's unders. If you like an overs, the one matchup I would be looking to target constantly this series is Jaylen Brown. I think he has the best matchup offensively for the Celtics. With Wiggins sort of occupied on Jason Tatum, they don't have someone else that has that length and the athleticism that can stay in front of the two wings. So Wiggins being occupied, it means that you either get Clay, who clearly isn't able-bodied. He's not quite what he was, and he can't stay in front of someone like Brown. The Warriors have tried to hide Klay Thompson defensively, sticking him on some power forwards and centers in some series as well to try and get rest. If that's the case, maybe they put, Draymond there, but Draymond's kind of just been that free-roaming help defender, and I think that sort of opens up potential for Brown, who is comfortable in the mid-range, is comfortable as a catch and shoot from beyond the arc, and obviously he's explosive enough that he can get to the rim if the driving lanes are available. So Brown is the one who, for I think the duration of the series, if you want to look at a prop that's going to go over, I would be looking at his points, because I think there's a very realistic world where he could lead Boston in terms of scoring on a nightly basis more often than not.
Just based on the matchup.
Just based on the matchup, yeah.
Oddsfell, do you agree with that, or do you have anything on your end?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you see how streaky he can get, especially if they, are deferring to him a little bit or he gets moving in the open court. He's not afraid to shoot the three. He can shoot it well. Once he put those two disastrous free throws behind him, he's normally a pretty good free throw shooter. So you get that to continue too. So I don't hate that one. There's also some interesting ones on FanDuel, depending on where you are. I know not everybody is in, those legal markets, FanDuel, DraftKings and things like that. But I heard about a couple of these and I've been trying to look at them a little bit today. I've just been a bit behind schedule, but there's things where you can take a player to average a certain number of points and then a team to win the series, right? So when you're looking at like MVP odds versus the Warriors to win the series, like one that jumped out to me was, if you are backing Golden State and backing the narrative of what Curry is going to need to do, Curry to average 25 plus points. So you get the round number too. If you hit 25, I think you're good. 25 plus points and Golden State to win, that's sitting at plus 145. There's a bunch of props in the market like that I think are, again, a little bit longer term. They're over the life of the series, but you can look at some averages and think matchup and build a little bit of more of a narrative and a story. So that one with Curry, if you're backing the Dubs, to me was interesting because that's better odds than you're getting on him to win the MVP, which is typically a way to get them, and that's better odds than them, to win the series, right? So you're getting a little bit of value there in what you think may happen, and I think Curry's averaging 27, 28 right now. He's going to get the volume. Obviously, I do think it's a tougher defensive matchup, but 25 for him is not unattainable. So things like that.
One last question, and then we'll get to the plugs. Lock bets, over and under panic attacks I will have during this series. Go.
I'm going to say the Sharps are hammering the first half of the series under, and the Sharps are hammering the over in the tail end. I think you're going to have a pretty easy going time. First few games that we've given you therapy tonight, so you're going to be good tonight. You should be good for game 2 because, as Josh said, Boston can be a game 1 and a game 2 kind of team. But I think it's going to get a little nitty and gritty, a little stressful for you. I think this series, if it goes the distance, I mean, how many hairs you got left? It could be the end for the barbershop.
Yeah, I would have to bick the rest I have left on my head.
Or I don't know,
Can
that
you
brick
reenact
wall was
the-
pretty good.
Can you reenact the Saturday Night Live Chris Farley Baker's dozen heart attack scenes? Like, can you do some of that for us maybe on TikTok? Yeah.
on TikTok?
Just a hard, yeah. I would have to do I would have to put the sound on while I do it. Yeah. I understand. Like, that's how TikTok works now. I'll end it right now. This is the end of the podcast, but I want to give it to Punt School one more time. Any plugs that you got that you want to give to the people?
I got nothing. I'll be honest. I got nothing. Let's just enjoy these NBA finals.
Let's just say this. He's on every podcast that has NBA basketball on.
Yeah.
He's well connected with every NBA podcast capper, and he's just gonna grow through the moon. And then he will never be on this podcast anymore because we are just the little people. So, anyways, that will end it for this episode of the podcast. Let's get to tip off of Game 1 NBA Finals. Till next time on the Bodds podcast. Peace.